leading in a downturn, it is a bit of a boring subject because of the fact that we've been in it for such a long time, and you once said at the IOD annual convention that people are fed up of being fed up. So, but yeah, a lot of CEOs have put the focus on cuts, 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 and not enough on creating an inspiring vision as well. In fact, Machiavelli, who said that make no small plans because they have no power to stir the soul. So what advice would you give to a CEO or leader in these downturns?
Well, listen, I've lived through 4 or 5 recessions. There's no doubt about it. This has been the longest and the toughest, and it's been the first one that's been a truly global recession, and it took us quite largely by surprise. You were quite sweet to point out that in 2008 M&S made £1 billion and 15 million profit. Following year it made 787. Now, could I have done something about reducing that profit drop a bit, but not much, because behaviourally people just said, I don't need a pair of shoes. I won't buy a suit this year. I won't do that. It's very, very tough. So, I'm slightly sympathetic for the chief executives who had to do what they had to do, which was protect the business, get the balance sheets back in order, keep the costs under control to make sure that they actually preserve the viability of the business. And that's all good and proper stuff. The more important bit is the second bit, if you like, which is, yes, has it gone on too long, and have we become risk averse around the world, but in the UK particularly, about expansion, and what is the driver for this? And the answer is yes.
Absolutely. Let's talk about that risk quotient for a second, because it's directly linked, I think, to innovation, right? So more and more companies are sort of, as you said, they have that fear of innovation, but yet, because it's risk and people are worried about losing their job. So how do you create that culture where risk-taking is acceptable?
Well, there are some very good examples of innovation going on. If you go around the UK, a lot of what I do now is below the radar screen. I'm involved in quite a number of other companies which are privately held startups. I mean, I'm involved in one startup which is taking £8 million a year, one startup which is taking £2.5 million a year, one startup which is taking £800,000 a year. Between them, they're collectively employing about 80 people, but 2 years ago they were employing about 8. Right? Well, that's great. There are more startups in the UK now happening than have happened in the preceding 10 years on an average monthly basis. And so out of this recession has come some good news. A sort of, if you've lost your job, needs must. If you don't like the job you're doing, people have been more thoughtful about, well, if I don't really like this, and actually this is not what it cracked up to be, I'll go and try my own thing. People are trying their own thing, and there's no shame now in failing. So, I met a girl yesterday, a woman, who is a professor of plastic surgery at Bristol University. She does some work with me. And she was saying, oh, my son's left his highly paid job. And I said, well, what's he doing? She said, he set up a business doing bespoke bicycles. I said, well, what's the matter with that? She said, well, he's, had a good earnings and he had a good this and had a good that. I said, well, has he sold any bikes yet? She said, he sold 7 bikes in the first 5 days. I said, well, that's not all bad, is it? And if he doesn't succeed, he can always go back to doing what he was doing before. But I think it's great that actually now, because we've had adversity and because we've had people having to think differently about their lives and what turns them on and what they can do and what their company's done to them, they can go out and be entrepreneurial. That's going to be the difference between us being successful in this country as a PLC, UK PLC, and being unsuccessful.